Hello. My name is Reid, and I am an alcoholic. Hello. And I don't say that to make everyone uncomfortable, and I don't need your fucking pity, sir. This is a story about a time before I was sober. This is a story about a time that I found myself in front of the frying pan at 3 a.m, drunk, of course, wearing a bloody suit with a backpack full of potatoes. This is the story of a time that a grizzled old hobo asked me if I was okay. Some backstory. I had just moved into my first solo apartment after renting houses with friends for 4 years. And those 4 years were really great, but they were massively boozy. We had a lot of adventures. There was the time that some fellas got a bee in their bonnet and smashed all our windows with a crowbar. There was the time that one of my roommates slashed his wrists, rubbed the blood all over our walls, and then climbed up on the roof. And the time that we got evicted just because a friend of a friend was selling meth out of our basement, and then some guy got beat up so bad in our boulevard that he had to have his jaw wired shut for 6 months. You know, like normal fun stuff. But it was time to move on, and so I moved into this building called Post Landing. It's located, we got a post lander? Okay. It's located between Labor Ready, a soup kitchen, and the Northern. So it's kind of a Bermuda Triangle of sadness with me right in the middle. And I loved it. You get a lot of like great foot traffic at a place like that. But I was drinking more and more and kind of becoming unpleasant to be around. On the night in question, I was doing my best to be tolerable. We were at the house I had just moved out of because some of my friends still live there. And we were grilling, and I made some of those potatoes in tinfoil with like carrots and onions and whatnot. And it was fun. We had a good time. Eventually, we moved the party to the Empire, I think, and where we all got wrecked, as you do, me especially. And at about 1:30, I made one of my now famous "don't tell anyone you're leaving, just sneak out a back door" style exits. And I headed back towards the house because I had left all of my stuff there. My backpack, my keys, most importantly, my booze, and my bike, which, and this is a story for maybe next time, was given to me by a homeless man after I split a six-pack of beer with him behind a Hardee's, and then was later stolen by another homeless man. Right. That's kind of to give you an idea of how I was living my life at this point. So I get back to the house, and I realize that I no longer have keys for this place. And that's a problem because all of my things are inside, but also because it's freezing out. So in my drunken wisdom, which was gloriously free of any concern for the future, I smashed in a basement window, and I kind of wriggled into a house that I no longer lived in. So when I got in there, I grabbed all of my stuff. I took a big slug of someone else's whiskey, and then I headed for the door before I had two thoughts. Thought number one, there are leftover potatoes. I'm going to want to eat those later. The tinfoil should hold up in my backpack. Thought number two, I need a jacket. So, of course, the tinfoil did not hold up. It broke immediately, covering all of my things in a pungent potato goo. And the only jacket that I could find was this old green suit coat that I had drenched in fake blood for Halloween a few years before. So, good enough. So I hit the road on my bike, and in retrospect, that wasn't a very long ride. It was maybe 3 miles, but at the time it seemed interminable. So I stopped at Frying Pan to get an omelet, a halfway omelet. And so a guy walks into a Frying Pan, right? He's stone drunk, he reeks of booze and cigarettes and potatoes, and he's seemingly drenched in blood, and nobody blinks an eye. It's It's a 24-hour breakfast establishment, so they see it every day. So I ate my food and I paid, and I'm feeling great. I'm full, I'm drunk, I'm more confident than I have any right to be. And I walk outside, and there's this guy sitting there on the curb, and he's smoking a cigarette. And he's maybe 60 years old, but it's kind of hard to tell with transients. He could have been 40, he could have been 80. He could have had that Benjamin Button disease and been 3, but that seems unlikely. He was wearing like dirty, layered clothes, and he had this long, scraggly gray hair and a scraggly gray beard. This is before 90% of dudes downtown had beards. And his hands were kind of gnarled and dirty, and they were shaking, and he's smoking this cigarette. He's got kind of that ghost vibe that some homeless men get, like vaguely threatening, but also just vaguely there. And he's the kind of guy that you would typically ignore or avoid, but he had cigarettes, and I was out, so I asked him if I could bum one. And he looked up at me with his craggy face and kind of sunken eyes, and he's got the bloodshot eyes, and he looks up at me. I'm 24, going on my 8th year of college, and seemingly with a bright future, but it was kind of looking bleaker every day. And he looks up at me and he says, "Are you okay?" And I was taken aback. I thought, yeah, I'm fucking fine. I just need a cigarette. You're the one that looks like he's about to die. And then I thought about what I actually must look like, which is a drunk kid covered in blood smelling of root vegetables. So I said, "Yeah, I'm all right. You?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm fine." He got up and he gave me a cigarette, and he lit my cigarette, and we smoked just in silence for a little while, and I finished my cigarette. I said, "I've got to go." And he turned and he looked at me right in the eyes, and then he gave me a hug, like a full-on hug, like a good hug. And he said, "You take care of yourself." And I got on my bike, kind of unsteadily, and then I rode home, where I made myself a stiff drink, and I ate those potatoes out of my backpack with my bare hands. But I think about that guy a lot, and how kind of extraordinary it is that he would worry about my well-being when he was clearly in kind of a tough spot himself. And I would just want him to know that I'm good. It took 10 years, but I did eventually take care of myself. And I hope he does too. The end. Thank you.